On Superman Day, DC dropped a Superman behind the scenes look. And I gotta tell you, remember we got the teaser at the end of the year, and we got like an extended preview when Minecraft dropped. Those were all fine. Great. I like the teaser. I like the extended preview. Cool. But nothing made me more excited about the Superman movie coming up than this behind the scenes look. We got to see the actual actors in their habitat, the sets, the practical effects. It's a big deal. Have you seen it yet, Matt?
Yep.
All right. This behind the scenes look for me. We're gonna go through it together. What we're gonna do is we can't actually play the whole thing at one time because the YouTube gods don't like that. So we're gonna stop on certain scenes and we'll just discuss what's happening and what we feel about it as we go. You ready to do this, dude?
Sure am.
Okay, guys, this is Superman Day behind the scenes. Oh, and you know what? I'm sorry, real quick. For reference, if you are under a rock and don't know, in July, the new DCU kicks off with the title character, Superman by James Gunn and Peter Safran, starring David Corenswet and other people. So, here we go.
Being a child.
So, we're stopping there real quick. Dude, that cape is a character. Like, just him walking through with that cape flowing. Perfect way to start this because I immediately got excited. Like, that cape is a character in its own.
Being a child, I loved the purity of Superman. It was a time when I was starting to understand what movies were.
One criticism, I do feel like James Gunn, and I like James Gunn, so,
Yeah, me too.
This is a criticism from a fan. It does feel like he is definitely making the DCU very much about like him and the things he loves, and I guess that's okay, but that is a valid criticism from some of the Snyder cultists that every preview we see very much includes James Gunn as a character.
I think the issue, especially with this video, and we'll probably get into it, is just everyone is just singing his praises, and not that he doesn't maybe deserve that, but at the same time, it's like, okay, say that he's brilliant once and then move on. You don't need to keep coming back to
right.
Oh, he's so visionary or revolutionary, or I'm so honored to work with him or whatever, because then it starts getting a little bit too egotistical, in my opinion.
Right.
And having title cards come up that say "from the mind of James Gunn" or whatever, I'm fine with that because it's kind of sparing and it'll tell you what's up. The thing about Snyder, though, Snyder was no different. Right?
No, he wasn't. Yeah. Here's the difference.
His takes were just terrible.
Yeah, James Gunn would say from the mind of James Gunn, but Snyder would say from the brilliant mind of Zack Snyder.
The revolutionary
mind of this fantastic writer, director, creative.
Yeah.
This Renaissance man.
No, I'm convinced that 80% of the Snyder cultists out there were just bots. So
it's crazy too. I hate even saying the word Snyder cultists because I liked the DCEU a lot. I liked Man of Steel. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but I actually loved Man of Steel. I loved the Snyder Cut. These are movies that I really enjoyed. I wish it could have continued into its own franchise, but it didn't. And it's not James Gunn's fault that it didn't.
Well, you know what I'm so confused about is when they brought James Gunn in to run DC, right? He came out with his roadmap. We all remember his roadmap.
Right. That was too early, by the way.
But what's weird is so he's keeping some elements of the Snyderverse. He's doing stuff that's completely new. Then he's incorporating some stuff from the comics, and it's such a weird hodgepodge. I think I know that Flash was supposed to be kind of this Flashpoint thing, but I really feel if Gunn had decided instead of making Superman his first movie, if he had done a Crisis on Infinite Earths film, to bridge the gap between the Snyderverse and his vision of the DC universe. I think more fans would be like a lot more on board with what he's doing, because it just feels like the Snyderverse is unfinished. It feels like his stuff is like, you know, too James Gunny. It would have been good to just have like some type of like wrap up of like what we experienced for like the past like decade in terms of like DC films. And I know the Flash movie was supposed to be that, but it wasn't. So
Right.
you know, like I just feel like if Gunn had been like a little bit more like, let's wrap everything up and then start fresh, more people would be on board with what he's doing than they are right now.
I completely agree. And I think there was reports that the Flash, the intended purpose of it was to be sort of that bridge to James Gunn's universe. And I believe James Gunn is the one that went in there and changed it. Like, he actually switched it over to be something that didn't connect to his universe whatsoever. Maybe he thought that it was going to alienate people or confuse people. But I would argue that the people that are confused by it aren't really paying attention, and the people that are paying attention are just let down.
But I mean, like, he's reusing some, like, for instance, Jason Momoa. He's going to be Lobo in the Supergirl movie, right. But he was Aquaman and you know, for like how many movies and stuff like that. So,
but to be fair, Lobo is going to be covered in makeup, right?
It doesn't matter. We all know it's Jason Momoa. You know,
that's true.
So, I mean, it's not like he looks like so different that you can't tell that it's him. And you know, the big issue with Flash was Ezra Miller and all like the weird legal troubles that like he was in and stuff like that. Like, you couldn't get him bonded for another movie,
right?
So you know, like the Flash was basically dead after that film. But I feel like a lot of people wanted to see like Henry Cavill put on the Superman suit one last time, maybe pass the torch, something like that. And especially after like Black Adam, I know there's a lot of controversy about like The Rock, you know, the power moves that he made to kind of take over the DCU, and introducing, Henry Cavill as, you know, returning as Superman and stuff like that. At least, I think most fans, if they had just addressed that and given Henry Cavill a proper send-off as Superman and stuff like that, so many more people would be on board with what Gunn's doing right now than they currently are.
I think you're totally right. And you and I would have appreciated the story more. Like, what we got was sort of discombobulated, and like, I enjoyed it for what it was, but it was a mess. Like, I understand it was a mess, and I can still enjoy it for what it was. This could have been the perfect in-universe way to connect the two universes, and they just didn't do it. So, but like I said, that part could be James Gunn's fault, but the reason why the DCEU didn't continue is not his fault. Has nothing to do with him or Peter Safran, and has everything to do with the previous administration over at Warner Brothers and Zack Snyder himself. To be real, you know, I'm not talking about his personal troubles and his, like, you know, family issues. I'm talking about his like the way he composed himself after all that happened too. Like, that was not helpful. So,
well, we also have to remember like the dirty tricks that he used to get like the Snyder Cut released, right? Like, he completely gaslit not only an entire studio but like entire fandom, as well.
The internet, right? Although, while I believe those were dirty tricks, I did appreciate it happening because I enjoyed the Snyder Cut. So, you know, but yeah, he used a lot of bots to make it look way more popular than it was.
Yeah, and I think I only like the Snyder Cut in relation to the Justice League theatrical release that we got. If you actually go back and really watch the Snyder Cut, it's not a well-made movie. It's not a good movie, but it's so much better than like the Joss Whedon theatrical version that we ended up getting in the first place.
Right.
It just made a lot more sense. It took its time. It fleshed out some of these characters, but at the same time, it's like it's still got all the problems that the Snyderverse has had from the beginning.
Sure.
So,
well, as a DC fanboy, it hit all my buttons. So, you know, but that doesn't mean James Gunn's not going to do that again. And this new DCU can take off and become something even more special than the DCEU ever could have been, because the DCEU was definitely filtered through Zack Snyder's creative glasses, for lack of a better word. And I do believe that the current DCU, while it might be filtered through James Gunn, is, if you look at it, is definitely more vibrant, colorful, very specific,
well
to
lit.
yeah, well lit, the way DC, we expect DC to be, and less dark and gritty and dire, you know. So let's continue with this.
I was starting to understand what movies were.
James didn't.
It's kind of crazy. Like they're on, like, this is not like a soundstage. Like they shot.
How do you
this.
know?
I mean, I guess you're right.
It could be on the volume.
Yeah, I guess the behind the scenes footage could be a soundstage too. How diabolical would that be if they shot the behind the scenes footage on a giant volume?
All the behind the scenes is just AI generated, Brian. We all know.
It's just AI. Well, aside from conspiracy theories, this appears to be an actual on location set. Like,
yes, somewhere in Canada.
we don't get this kind of thing nowadays. A lot of these movies and especially TV shows would rather just put a bunch of fake snow down with a giant volume screen behind them and call it a day. You know, this is actually impressive. This reminds me of like classic filmmaking. Classic.
Well, they also
10 years ago.
You know, they had to get those drone shots, so like you can only do that like on location, flying the drones around.
That's true.
Things of that nature. But yeah, but you know, one of those things about like actually going on location, it always like increases the budget because you have to do travel, you have to, you know, do safety, you have to, you know,
Equipment,
set up like
permits,
camps and like all this other stuff. So actual locations that does balloon the budget a lot compared to like a controllable sound stage.
Yeah, I agree.
Know that Superman was in his future. He wasn't sure that that was the one he should be doing. And then he called me one day and he said, I have a way in.
What was the way in? Like they offered him a job as the head of DC or DC Studios? Or was it like, is he talking about narratively? Like, I have a way in to tell the story I want to tell.
No, I think going back after the Guardians 3 stuff, I think that what he did with Peacemaker was his way in, or at least not Peacemaker, the Suicide Squad. So if you remember, you know, Marvel basically fired him before Guardians 3,
Right? Because of
DC,
like tweets from like 15 years ago, right?
yeah, and then DC swooped in and picked him up to do the Suicide Squad sequel, and I think that was his way in. Even though like he eventually came back and did Guardians 3, once he did a movie with DC in the DC universe, he was then like, hey, I have other ideas for stuff, and then he got Peacemaker, and Peacemaker was a big hit. You know, I know a lot of people don't like to talk about it, but it was.
It was. It was really well done.
Yeah, and I think he was able to kind of schmooze with a lot of like the DC brass and the Warner Brothers brass. And when Zaslav came in, he probably went to, or Gunn probably went to Zaslav and pitched him hard on, you know, a bunch of DC properties. And when Zaslav was shaking stuff up, he was probably like, hey, why don't we just put these guys in charge?
Yeah, the smartest thing I think that the previous Warner Brothers administration did was swoop up James Gunn the second Disney dropped him. They're like,
yeah, and James Gunn, you know, he's got a pretty good track record in terms of like, you know, making good movies. I don't know if a lot of people out there remember this, but he did a movie called Brightburn.
I do.
Not too long ago that he wrote, and I believe he wrote it, but he produced it. And it was basically like, okay, what if Superman was evil?
Right.
And it showed like what that character would be like growing up with Ma and Pa Kent trying to instill, you know, good values and make him care about humanity. But like he just, his alien nature just prevented him from incorporating those teachings. And
right.
It was kind of sold as like a little bit of a horror movie. But it was like a Superman Elseworld story.
Yeah.
It was really interesting.
Yeah, it was super. I actually liked the movie. I thought it was super rad.
Yeah.
All right, continuing here.
I know what I want to talk about.
I had been trying to crack it for years.
See, he says, I've been trying to crack it for years. I mean, I do believe, and I understand the criticism that this is all about James Gunn or whatever. I understand that, and I get it. But what if this isn't a show? What if James Gunn legitimately loves these characters and he's been wanting to make this movie for years? What if that's really the truth? What if he's an actual fan and he's been wanting to make this movie his entire life? How crazy would that be? How amazing would that actually be, that a real super talented creative fan actually is getting to make the movie he's wanting to make? Although you can argue that sort of happened with Singer and Superman Returns, and that didn't turn out great.
Well, the problem with Singer was that he was trying to recreate the Donner movies, right? Like he was Superman Returns was basically a sequel to the Donner films,
right?
And I think by that point, people had just like moved on from Donner, and they were ready for like a new Superman film, and it was just a retread of stuff not done quite as well. I mean, Kevin Spacey as Lex Luthor, I think that was great casting. I didn't have a problem with Brandon Routh as Superman, but it felt like a movie that should have been made like a decade earlier.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, that's a good point. As much as I love Superman 78 and all the Donner era of Superman, we were definitely beyond that sort of campy style of superheroes, especially after Singer makes X-Men, right? He makes like the first installment of what in my opinion probably kicked off the modern superhero movie. And then he just sort of follows that up with a return to Donner style Superman. And I think you're right. I think you're totally right.
But I also think that there's an inherent kind of like misconception about Superman, that he's like a boring character because he's like, you know, like, so like he's basically
so wholesome.
Yeah. Like wholesome, stalwart, you know, like he's a positive character. And so it's like, well, how do you make that interesting? Because we need to be dark and edgy and stuff like that. But I feel like filmmakers who understand the appeal of Superman, which is basically like he is an ideal, he's a standard by which to live up to, and by constantly challenging those standards, that's what makes the character interesting. Like I think that there was like a, I don't know if I just wrote this in my head because I've always wanted to make a Superman movie, or if this was actually something from the comics. Mm-hmm. But it was basically like Lex Luthor and Superman are having like a confrontation, right? Mm-hmm. And Lex Luthor says like, you know, like greed, jealousy, envy. These are all qualities I refuse to believe don't exist in you. Like he's basically like tearing down Superman because he doesn't believe that he's actually as good as he presents to the world.
Right.
And then Superman just looks at Lex Luthor and he's like, understanding, empathy, and happiness. These are qualities I refuse to believe don't exist in you.
Wow.
And like, it was just such a powerful exchange that like, It always kind of stuck with me. And those are the types of messages that like the Superman movies always, or the Superman comic books always kind of like instilled. And it's what made it interesting. Going back to Marvel, like real quick. So like we have like the Luke Cage TV series. And the problem with the Luke Cage TV series is like, how do you make someone who's indestructible interesting, right? Because like you can't physically threaten them. You can't put them, you know, like in a, like if you aim a gun at them, the bullets are just going to bounce off, right?
Right.
So like, and they never quite cracked it in the Luke Cage series, but like I always thought they did a little bit of it in season 2. But basically, you know, when he's hired as a bodyguard, you put the people he cares about or the people he's charged to protect in constant jeopardy, and you create obstacles for him to protect those people. And that's always been the formula for Superman, where basically because he's basically indestructible, you have to threaten the stuff around him and the people he cares for and stuff like that to make it interesting, because that's what makes it a challenge for him. Like, how do you protect everyone in the city, right? How do you protect, you know, like the ideals that you want people to live by and things of that nature. And for modern Hollywood filmmakers and writers, they can't wrap their brains around that, because it's not what they like they're just not talented enough to do that. But I feel like James Gunn is talented enough to do that, and that's why I actually have hope for this movie, because I feel like he gets what needs to happen with Superman in order to make him an interesting character. And very few other filmmakers, especially Snyder, just didn't know how to do that.
Right. I think you're right. That's a really good point on the whole indestructible thing. Superman is the definition of hero, not because he has to be, but because he wants to be. And like, you have this person with godlike abilities, godlike powers, who is not struggling with his humanity. Like, his biggest powers are not the abilities that he wields, but the pure humanity that he puts out.
Yeah, my problem with Snyder's take on Superman was always that it was a burden to him to be like this savior of humanity, right? It was like, it was something that was a responsibility to be shouldered, and it was very cynical, right, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, when Martha's like, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to help anyone. Like, his mother was giving him advice to, if you don't want to, then don't do it. I didn't like that.
But I mean, a lot of the iconography that Snyder put in, like, for instance, those flood victims in some third world country reaching up as like Superman's, poised against like the setting sun with his cape flapping. Mm-hmm. He's entirely in silhouette, like a lot of that stuff, especially like, that image of like people like gathering around him and trying to touch him. And he's just like looking around. And he just feels completely disconnected from the people who are looking at him as like a savior and stuff like that. That was the big problem with Man of Steel, in my opinion, was just Snyder's take on Superman, because we all know that his true passion was Batman. Snyder wanted to be making Batman films, and he used Man of Steel as a backdoor to get to Batman. In fact, Man of Steel 2, like it was his way of getting to Batman, because it was Batman v Superman. But I feel like Snyder was just like the wrong guy to handle Superman. Like with Superman, you really need to understand the appeal, which is that people want to feel hopeful. People want a hero that they can look up to. And it's not boring. Yeah, it's not boring. It's not a boring character. It's a character that you can make more interesting than probably any other character if you're smart enough to understand what his appeal is. I just don't think Snyder fit that role.
Speaking of which, I do believe that James Gunn should have someone else make the Batman movie. When they do introduce Batman into this universe, the tones need to be different. Like Zack Snyder, I think you're right, probably is better at making a Batman movie than a Superman movie. So when you introduce that character in this movie, it needs to be someone with a darker grasp on the character.
Speaking of the Batman version, like, I'm actually kind of surprised that he's going forward with his take on Batman, where, common sense would be like, take the Matt Reeves Batman and fold it into this universe, because you're going to have like two different Batmans.
I don't think Batman 2 is going to go forward. I think the Matt Reeves universe is going to be cut off at its legs.
It might not, but even then, it's like having like one Batman movie and one Batman TV series. Especially when the TV series was good, and I happen to actually like the Matt Reeves movie. I feel like just having that out there is weird. Like they booted up this new take on Batman, and they're abandoning him right away for this other take on Batman, one that I'm actually not too excited about. Like, I don't like Damian Wayne, and I'm not quite sure where this Batman fits into the greater scheme of like
Brave and the Bold.
James Gunn's plans. So I don't know, man. Like, it's just so weird how he's just like kind of hodgepodging, all this stuff together when there's all these other things out there that need to be wrapped up or acknowledged or put to bed.
Same with the Flash. I think that they probably wanted him to connect all this stuff together, and he was like, I don't want to do that. I want to just abandon all of that and just do my own thing.
But in that case, I would have rather he just start fresh, where it's just like make a clean break and move forward. But instead, like they're carrying over some of the stuff.
They're carrying over
like,
Peacemaker stuff. You're right.
Peacemaker stuff. They're carrying over like Ben Affleck Batman stuff, Henry Cavill Superman stuff. What was it? Some of the Peacemaker characters appeared in Shazam, and Amanda Waller is still the Amanda Waller from like the 2 former Suicide Squad movies.
To be
and
fair
stuff
though,
like that.
maybe it's the same. Maybe it's the same actor. Maybe it was like, hey, this actor's perfect for the role, so I'm just gonna keep him there.
But
Maybe it's their story.
I think he's flat out said that like there are elements of Peacemaker that are canon and there are elements that aren't.
He did,
And
yeah. He
it's
said
just-
like these episodes aren't these. He's basically
Yeah.
saying anything involving the Justice League is not canon.
yeah, it's so weird. And like if people aren't following, like the news and stuff like
You're
that,
right.
then like they're going to get confused. So it's just it's a strange stance to take on his part, in my opinion.
I love the Peacemaker so much, though. Like
Yeah, it's good.
I'm
I
glad
can't
it's
wait for season
continuing,
2.
even though it's messy. Because like,
But that's why I feel like there should have been like a Crisis on Infinite Earth bridge movie where basically like you could cherry pick the stuff that you wanted to keep from like the one Earth and introduce it into like the new Earth that he's like, creating and stuff like that. So I just feel like this hodgepodge that he's going for, like, I don't know if you've heard about this from the Superman test screenings, but apparently this movie is just like a series of like side quests, like short film adventures starring Superman and different characters. And it's not like a cohesive film where you have like one narrative from beginning to end. It's like a bunch of like, it's almost like an anthology.
so I talked to
type
Chris
thing.
Gore at the kickoff in Vegas, and a couple of his friends got to see the screener, and then I have a friend who claimed that she saw the screener because she works for one of the theaters that was close in LA that did it. And so far, the 3 people that have reported back that they've seen the screener, one of Chris Gore's friends said it was outstanding, amazing, exactly what we need. The other one said it was good enough. And my friend said it was fantastic. So far out of 3 people, I'm getting 2 yays and 1 maybe. So it might not be made for everyone. Maybe it starts like that, where you have this anthology of adventures to sort of establish the character in the universe. And then that final act is more cohesive storyline.
Well,
And
apparently this opening where Superman crashes in the Arctic and Crypto takes him to the Fortress of Solitude, stuff like that. Supposedly that's the opening of the movie.
yeah, supposedly.
So
All right, well, let's continue with it.
This character's noble and he's beautiful.
We just finished day 1 on Super.
Dude, Rachel Brosnahan is Lois Lane.
I love her as Lois Lane.
She's so perfect.
And there was someone I was talking to the other day when we were watching this, and he was like, there's something like really hot about her
right?
that Margot Kidder didn't have, but even though they both kind of look similar, but
They look similar,
you know,
but
like-
she's like really attractive. And I can't
yeah,
place it.
like anyone who's watched her in The Marvelous Ms. Maisel or anything like that, like they know like how hot she is. But she also fits the role because you totally believe that she's like this intrepid reporter,
Right.
type thing. So I'm interested to see what Gunn does with her, because Gunn's pretty good at writing these like strong female characters without overshadowing the male characters.
I remember it was like 4 years ago at your studio. I was in your studio doing a show with you. I don't remember what show it was, but we were doing a show. And we brought up the casting. And it was when they had not revealed that Rachel Brosnahan was Lois Lane. And they had like 4 front runners for Lois Lane. And I remember you and I being like, if it's not Rachel Brosnahan, then someone over there is nuts. Because she looked like the character. And I was so happy that they actually chose this person and not one of these random, vapid redheads.
That's another like big difference between Snyder and Gunn is Snyder was really bad at casting. Like he's just super bad at casting his movies.
Well, we got
Whereas,
lucky with Henry Cavill because that guy looks like Superman.
Well, I believe that Cavill was cast before Snyder came on board Man of Steel.
Oh, that makes sense.
Because Nolan was the guy who produced that movie. Like he was like writing big after the Dark Knight trilogy, and he was kind of overseeing the reboot of Superman. And I think that the producers were the ones who hired Henry Cavill more so than Snyder, because Snyder was kind of like a gun for hire for that movie. Like he was kind of like brought on at the last minute, and it was really Nolan who was like the one making like the shot calls.
That makes
in
sense.
Pre-production. But like I would have never cast Ben Affleck as Batman. I just didn't think he was a good Batman. Gal Gadot was kind of a strange choice. I remember at the time everyone's like, she's too skinny. Like she has got that accent. She's very,
the accent made a little bit of sense considering like they wanted to make the accent like
yeah. But when you have
area.
when you have someone like Adrian Padalecki, I think her name is
Adrian Padalecki,
from
the Orville and Supernatural.
Yeah, like from the Orville, like she's literally like the perfect body type.
Yeah, but at the time, she was literally on a Marvel show as a Marvel character.
True, but I mean, like that's never stopped actors before. But casting.
And she's super skinny now. We don't know what she looked like then.
Casting Momoa as Aquaman.
That was I love Momoa, really but that was sus for sure. Yeah,
and also Ezra Miller as the Flash. Like
that was a mistake.
That was a huge mistake. And what he did with
did he not talk to the guy for 5 minutes before casting him?
I'm sure he did. I think he. This is the problem with Snyder is like when left to his own devices, he makes really bad creative choices. And I learned when I was making films that 90% of directing is casting. If you cast the right people, your job as a director is like super, super easy.
Right.
And it felt like in the casting of the Justice League members, like Ray Fisher as Cyborg and all this other stuff, he just made because Ray Fisher became problematic, Ezra Miller became problematic. Right. Jason Momoa was not cast to type. Gal Gadot, even though she ended up kind of eventually owning the character, like she was an odd choice at the time. And Ben Affleck, he was like really the only like superstar I think that was cast as Batman. He's been wanting to play Batman since Daredevil.
Right. Dude, since Clerks, bro. Since Clerks.
Right. Well, I mean, he wasn't in Clerks.
I'm sorry, Mallrats.
Yeah. But just this notion, like Jesse Eisenberg is Lex Luthor, like there's so many bad.
The Jesse Eisenberg thing was a bad choice.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he couldn't have done it, but like it's a weird casting. It's weird.
But the casting for this new Superman, like I think David Cornsweet, he fits the role perfectly. Who's the guy who plays Lex Luthor? Nicholas Hoult.
Right.
Like, dude, that guy.
You're about to see. He's gotten beefed up too. He bulked up.
But Nicholas Hoult, like he is such an amazing actor. He's so versatile. Like he's so cool. I think he's going to be a really interesting choice for Lex Luthor. Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner.
We've been waiting for that since I was in my 20s. So
yeah, I mean, like there's a lot of really good casting choices, and even though they race swapped Perry White, it's like who cares, right? Like Perry White.
Yeah, it's like this ancillary character. I don't really care. Yeah. Hawk Girl's also a little sus, but I can see that that actress has a lot of passion. She's a little short for the role, in my opinion, but.
The casting of Pa Kent, I thought, was kind of interesting because that character actor who plays him, like he's been in so much stuff. I remember him back with was it Ernest Saves Christmas guy?
Oh, that's right.
Where he had like the weird like eye movements and stuff like that. Like
right.
It'll be interesting to see, but I think that like the casting choices so far for this movie have been spot on, especially Lois Lane,
especially Metamorpho.
Metamorpho is good, but I mean, like when you compare Amy Adams with
there's no
Ms.
comparison.
Maisel,
yeah,
it's like she was a redhead. She wasn't quite believable.
I have no problem with the Amy Adams, but she doesn't fit the Lois Lane.
Yeah, she doesn't fit the Lois Lane mold,
right,
at all.
All right. Speaking of which,
Superman.
It's been a hell of a week at the office.
He looks great.
Scripts are so unique.
Yeah, see, he looks great. Look at it. He looks like he's bulking up too, dude. His shoulder, unless those are shoulder pads or something. I don't know.
Might just be
the stories that
the way it's cut.
That's true.
Heartfelt.
We love the opportunity.
Look at that. It's a robot. So all the weird Snyder people, they're like, look at this horrible CGI robots, and then they show them behind the scenes, and it's an actual practical effect. Oh my God, I died laughing, bro. Like, it's an actual practical effect. It reminded me of that Remember the movie Hellboy? When people saw it, they were complaining about how the Death character was horrible CGI. And then it was revealed that every aspect of that character was complete and total practical effects. I think people complain about things and like their go-to is bad CGI. And I'm not sure if people even know what CGI is even more. Because you can do practical effects and add some VFX on top of it to like pump it up. That's not CGI. That's just enhanced practical effects.
Yeah, my wife and kid call all special effects CGI.
Right.
And it bugs the shit out of me. I have to stop them and be like, that's not a computer generated image.
Right.
To play with the incredible DC library of.
Look, he looks bulky. Look at his arms. He looks bulky, bro. That looks like Lex Luthor. Originally, I was a little sus on this casting because, like, I know he's a really good actor, but he seems not serious enough for the role. But every preview I see of him just convinces me more and more this dude was meant for Lex Luthor. And remember, he actually was up. He auditioned for Superman, and they were like, you're more of a Lex Luthor.
Yeah, the thing is, like, I don't know if you ever watched what was it, like the Catherine the Great TV show that he did? I think it was just called The Great.
Oh yeah, The Great. Yeah.
On Hulu.
Love that show, and that chick in there is stunningly beautiful for some reason to me.
Yeah, but he played like the king of Russia,
the emperor of Russia,
like that. The emperor of Russia, yeah. And his comic timing on that show was just next level. And when you have an actor who's like really, really skilled with like comedy, they can do anything because comedy is the hardest thing to do for an actor.
Right. No, he's really great in The Great. I think the reason why that show is so appealing to me, which I'm not a big fan of like period stuff, or like, you would not say, hey, Brian, have you seen The Great? And you wouldn't expect me to like that show. But I actually like it a lot. And because of his betrayal of the emperor and the girl that plays his like betrothed wife, Catherine the Great, yeah. Their chemistry is phenomenal. The comedy.
I think her name's Elle Fanning. Is that?
She's really attractive.
Ellie Fanning. Yeah.
But their chemistry is phenomenal. Like the way they play off each other comedically is really fantastic, and the characters around them, great casting because they picked up characters that he basically in the show just abuses continually.
Yeah. No, he's such a narcissistic
and it's
kind of man-child.
It's really funny, and then to see his like slow evolution from like this abusive man-child to like this someone who is so in love with Catherine that he starts to like develop empathy and like morals.
Yeah, but he's still a huge narcissist.
But he's still huge. Yes, that's his nature. Yeah. It's a really good show.
Yeah, if anyone hasn't checked that show out, The Great is really, really good. Like I wasn't, my wife started watching it, and I wasn't expecting to like it because it's like historic. It almost looks like a Bridgerton type show,
right?
But it's really not.
It's not Bridgerton. No.
Yeah, it's actually a really dark comedy.
It's a dark comedy, right?
There's 3 seasons of it, and Nicholas Hoult just like is brilliant in that show.
He's very good.
So good.
That show is what made me a fan of Nicholas Hoult. Everyone's same. Don't you remember him from X-Men? I'm like, didn't really do anything for me in X-Men.
Also, Mad Max Fury Road.
Yeah. Those things is not what got me to like Nicholas Hoult. That's for sure. He wasn't bad as Beast whatsoever. He's fine. Good actor. I never really liked the Beast character, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah, I'm not a big Beast fan either.
Not a fan. And I didn't like. Yeah, there's too many criticisms. We're not going to go down that road. There's a lot of criticisms of that movie. Here we go.
Characters and stories, and we really want to do justice for them.
Welcome.
I gotta back it up because this is first this character, Hawk Girl. So I love that they're having Hawk Girl in this. It's one of the DC characters that really doesn't get a lot of screen time, and I like the character a lot. I don't know which version of Hawk Girl they're going to use because there is the version that comes from another planet, and she's essentially there to to soften up Earth and then report back as sort of like a scout for her armada of bird people. And then there's the version that is attached to like this comet that fell, and she's immortal and she reincarnates every so on, and she has like this husband that also reincarnates with her, and they find each other and they die. So there's a couple versions of this character, and I'm not sure which one.
I'm pretty sure they're going with the alien one.
Right, the other one's really convoluted. So
it's really convoluted, but also like you get like the nth metal aspect with the aliens, and
right.
And with the Green Lantern TV show that they're planning and their version of the Green Lanterns, it just makes sense that they'd go out into the cosmos for some of these. And also, I think that James Gunn was really inspired by the animated Justice League series, and that was the one that was in the Justice League cartoon show. So
yeah, and I think that's the bright choice. I hope you're right, and that would also open up some really awesome stories down the line, I think.
Yeah,
because like that storyline was rad in Justice League Unlimited when she finally came clean, and she ends up turning on her people to help the Justice League sort of push them back.
And they already did like the reincarnation version in Heroes of Tomorrow, which was
Legends
so
of Tomorrow.
Stupid.
Yeah,
Legends of Tomorrow, which was so dumb. Oh my god, I hated that show.
You know what's funny is I actually like that show a lot, except for that character and her stupid husband and that stupid storyline. I liked the show, and I despised all the Hawk person stuff. It was so bad and so stupid to me. I hated Randall Savage. I hated everything about that. But the rest of the characters I liked, which is funny because like after season 2, like those characters just sort of like disappeared. I don't think that they tested very well. All right, here we go.
Justice for them.
Well, all right, dude, that's a practical suit. Did you think for a minute this character would have been done in practical?
Yeah.
Really? Why? Because it's James Gunn? Because anyone else would have been a CGI person in one of those suits with all the little dots on it, you know?
I think just in terms of like production, so like it reminds me a lot of like the early 2000s The Thing suit from Fantastic Four that Michael Chiklis was in. Like at a certain point, like you make the like, okay, how much is this person interacting? Are there fight scenes? You know, all this stuff. Like Snyder would always prefer to go for like the CGI person, but I feel like just from a practical standpoint, having like you know, an actor in a suit makes more sense and is actually like far cheaper, and you can do a lot more with them.
And
I'm sure that
you can pump it up with VFX.
Yeah, and I'm sure there are parts where there is like a digital version of this character like in there in some of the action scenes, like when Superman's dragging him through like the whatever that is, the baseball stadium or whatever. That's obviously CGI, but yeah, I mean, looks good.
Actually, the baseball stadium, we saw some of that too, and a lot of that's actual practical effects. When he's dragging what appears to be Ultraman, they have the dolly where he's actually being pulled by Ultraman. So I think that might be practical effects too.
Welcome to the Daily Planet.
She's
It's
so
been so
pretty.
much fun to have
It's
the
crazy.
gang together finally.
Oh, this, dude, I love the Jimmy Olsen casting too.
Yeah, no, that actor was actually in this Netflix show called The Santa Clarita Diet.
Yes, I love that show so much with Drew Barrymore and Nathan Fillion.
And Nathan Fillion as a head, yeah.
As a head, yeah.
But like that actor, he plays like the awkward young man so well, and I feel like you know Snyder's version of Jimmy Olsen was like this undercover CIA, highly trained agent guy who looks like a underwear model, and it's nice to see like Jimmy Olsen kind of get back to like his weird awkward roots.
I hated Zack Snyder casting because it's a blink and you miss it character. First off, even if you watch like the ultimate cut or whatever, when he's where he gets a little more screen time, and not for a minute unless you hear like you see the subtitles where it says Jimmy, you don't believe for a moment that that's Jimmy Olsen. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but what's funny about this casting is so like you have the casting of Jimmy Olsen and the casting of Lois Lane, and I'm not familiar with David Cornsweet outside of like that movie Twisters that came out that he was actually really good in.
He was great.
But these are all actors who really know how to like. So as a director, you can always tell when actors are just reciting lines and they're just like, like I have line that must come out of my mouth. But then there are actors who are like present in the moment and can actually play off of each other and are paying attention to what's being said and makes it sound natural and feel natural.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like Gunn cast like the whole Daily Planet crew based around that. So they feel so much more organic and natural together than we've seen in a long time, essentially.
That's why when people complain about the Perry White thing, I'm like, I'm sorry, but that actor, aside from his skin color, is perfect for that role. If you've ever seen him in shows like Suits, he's actually played lawyers in multiple things. He has that gravitas that reminds me of Perry White. So I'm not sure. I'm not worried about his skin color because like the guy fits the mold. His entire body of work fits that mold. He's a great actor and he has the gravitas to pull off that character. So it didn't bother me.
Finally.
Oh, this is this person here in the horrible wig, and I agree that's a horrible wig. That's Cat Grant, which I think is cool. We have not seen Cat Grant in live action outside of the stupid CW TV shows. So, and she's a big part of Supergirl. So when we finally do get the Supergirl movie, I'm assuming that character is being soft introduced in this movie.
I wear my trunks on the
I love this
outside of my
part.
pants.
Yeah, I love this part too.
This is the scene that convinced me that Cornsweet was the dude for this role. Because like this is just like, so like, he's not complaining. He's making a joke out of it. He's like joking around with Nicholas Hoult here. And you can just tell that he's having fun being in this. And that to me is a good signal that he's gonna nail it.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right. Like they clearly have like a chemistry too.
Yeah.
This gave me like Smallville vibes a little bit. Like,
yeah.
Like I had that Tom Welling, Rosenberg vibes a little bit. And
Totally.
This preview that they showed us, like, so James Gunn said, without a shadow of a doubt, there will not be a trailer on Superman Day. Technically, he didn't lie. He said, guys, you got a trailer. We just showed you the first 5 minutes look. Give us some time for the next trailer. And everyone was so up in arms, like, why are you spending so much time? Where's our real trailer? And he said, trailer's not coming on Superman Day. I don't want you to get your hopes up. And technically, he was right. A trailer didn't come out.
Yeah, this is a BTS.
But this is so much better than a trailer. Honestly. This is better than an actual trailer, in my opinion. I'm going to go back. Let's watch that scene again.
I wear my trunks on the outside of my pants. Like, it's liberating.
Look at all those practical effects. Notice, by the way, so this character here to the left, I'm not sure if you can see my cursor. So this character is Techno something. I keep forgetting because I didn't care about the character. Tech something, someone with a T. She's like this nanite person. Whatever, cool. But this character, you see the U on his chest? So this is theorized to be Ultraman. And if it is Ultraman, and that U is like a hint at what the character actually is, or maybe it's not a U, maybe it's just part of his chest, but it looks like a U to me. And he's fighting Superman in the stadium. This is probably, and a spoiler alert, for the next 30 seconds, just pause your brain. It's probably a Superman clone, and it's probably played by David Cornsweet, which is why he's covered up head to toe. Because in the comic books, Ultraman was the evil version of Superman.
James and his stories.
Power Girl was the female version of Superman.
Power Girl's hot.
The huge knockers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, so this ship is practical, by the way. look how badass this ship looks. And you see the T spheres in the back. This is like, T guy's ship or whatever. I'm forgetting his name.
Is it Mr. Terrific?
Mr. Terrific. But look at the T spheres. Like, this is all practical. It's so rad. Like, it's really fucking rad, bro. It's so cool looking to me.
He does it with heart.
Superman is a character who's good.
Oh, I
I'm
thought
a little disappointed we didn't get some Green Lantern action in this behind the scenes.
Yeah, same. I think that perhaps Green Lantern requires so much like VFX that it would be underwhelming. BTS.
I just wanted a better picture of his hairstyle because it goes by so fast in the actual trailer. It's like, okay, is this really like the Larry Moe and Curly bowl cut?
Right. I've been admonished by Laura Toth. I apologize. You're right. Ultraman is the Earth 3 Superman like character. He's not evil Superman. You're right. You're right. Either way, I think that is a clone of Superman. Spoiler alert, I think. And that the reason he's covered up head to toe is because that's played by David Corn Sweat.
Is filled with hope. He saves people because it's the right thing to do. We could use a little
Being a child.
Oh my God, I went back too far. By the way, he saves people because it's the right thing to do. It's not a burden per se. I like the vibe of this Superman honestly more than Snyder's.
hope. He saves people because it's the right thing to do. We could use a little bit more of that.
Superman was my original superhero, and it started in comic.
By the way, he's supposed to have white hair, but because of filming and stuff, they didn't do it. But he's playing the same character that the cartoon version of him plays in Creature Commando.
Yeah, he's Randall Flagg Sr., right?
Right, Rick Flag.
Rick Flag Sr. Yeah, so he's basically Joel Kinnaman's dad.
Right, so he's supposed to have white hair because he has white hair in the cartoon, but they just...
By the way, Creature Commandos isn't good.
I disagree. I liked it, but I understand why you don't like it, and I think
it's essentially Suicide Squad,
right?
But I don't care about anyone.
Yeah. No, I get it.
No one,
and it's an acquired taste. I personally liked it, but he does
the voice in that show, right?
He does, yeah. So all the actors that play the characters in live action will always be the voice of the characters in animation, according to James Gunn. Which makes sense.
And I think it's going to be a game.
That looks rad, right? Okay, question mark. This is for you. Remember when Lex had that super-powered, Krypton-powered suit of armor, mech-style armor?
Yes. I had the toy.
Yes. Do you think that might be it? Without the VFX coloring, the green coloring?
Yeah, it could be. Because
you add some VFX to that, and you add some green VFX to that, and that looks a lot like what I expect a live action suit that would look like.
The shape looks very close to it. I know that they used it in the Injustice sequel, Injustice 2. The Lex Luthor in that game wears the power armor.
Mm-hmm.
So
that would be rad. I think that the reason they showed that is because they don't think people would pick up on it because there's no green VFX.
Yeah, when I watched this the first time, I was like, what character is that? Because it doesn't look like, super recognizable from the back.
Right.
But that would make sense. Lex Luthor's power armor.
Changer.
This is the beginning of the future. They are launching.
Oh, I like this actor a lot too.
They are launching.
Yeah, he's the one who plays Mr. Terrific, right?
Yeah. Edie Gathegi. Oh my God. He was in a show called Blacklist as a character that started off as a villain, and you end up actually understanding like his motivations and sort of liking him. And he was really,
also in For All Mankind.
Yes,
as in like Elon Musk type.
He's a very good actor.
And of course, Twilight. Who can forget him in Twilight?
Who can forget him?
The future. They are launching a new era right now.
It's the beginning of a whole new adventure and a whole new universe.
We're just getting started. We're already deep in the DC universe. In James Gunn we trust, and I think we can do.
See, a lot of this is like James Gunn.
One thing I do like about James Gunn is like he's not afraid to pull out deep cuts from the comics and put them in the forefront of like, you know, the movies.
Dude, if you said, hey, there's a Superman movie in 2024, 2025, predict what characters will be in it. Not in a million years would I have said Metamorpho and Mr. Terrific.
Yeah. Also like Stag Industries, and
Right.
I think there was Big Belly Burger reference somewhere.
Oh man, you got a big belly. That's in everything. Big Belly Burger was in the Snyder Cut. It was in the CW shows. It's got to be in there. So. It's like their version of McDonald's.
But even in Peacemaker season 1, like they had references to Batmite.
Oh, you're
like
right.
that.
They did. Yeah. It's like a bat with a yeah. Dude, Peacemaker is. If you listen, guys, if you haven't seen Peacemaker, please watch it. It's so clever. It's so well done. It's not just a bunch of like dick jokes with what's his face. It's actually very well
John
thought
Cena.
out. With John Cena. It's actually very well thought out and very well done. And I'll never forget that last shot with him, the Bug, his dad. Like that last shot that shows every like version.
The Eagle.
Yeah, in the Eagle of capitalism, anti-capitalism, the hero, the villain. Like it was such a perfect shot. Very beautifully well done. And who doesn't like to see an eagle dance? I mean, come on.
Do it.
Oh, by the way, spoiler alert, everyone. That's Lex Luthor in the Fortress of Solitude. Look at those crystals. That's Donner level fortress right there. Or Super Smallville, who use the same crystals. Instead of like super stupid floating nanites or whatever. Metal that Snyder used. So Lex Luthor does make it to the fortress. Like that's a guarantee. All right, well, that's pretty much it. The rest of it's just telling you when it comes out. I'm super stoked about this. This actually increased my hype of the movie. I'm really stoked. Can't wait to see a trailer. I feel like we did actually get a lot in here that not everyone's totally aware of. And I hope that they don't come out with a trailer and blow too much of the story, because James Gunn, like you said, it's not really about, or like my brother said earlier, it's not really about how good the movie looks versus how good the story is. So you don't want to blow the story for us. Don't reveal too much.
Here comes the